Welcome to the Fundraising Leadership Podcast, where we engage in lively and thoughtful conversations with professionals in the nonprofit world. Today, we're engaging with us as professionals in the nonprofit world. And this is a team fundraising leadership podcast. So I'm happy to be here today with the whole team, with David Langiuli and Janice Cunning and Michelle Malloy Dillon. And I'm Margaret Katz-Can. And we decided to do a team podcast based on a conversation that I had with somebody who's a podcast listener and a blog reader, and who said that thing like, I know what you do, but really, I don't actually know what you do. So we thought, I don't think our goal here is to be a best kept secret about any of the work that we do. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about what we do, about why we do it, and just give our listeners a chance to get to know us a little bit better and the work that we do. So we each in our blog wrote about part of what we do, and so I'm gonna toss it first to Michelle and ask you to share what you wrote about in the blog.
Well,
Yeah,
and
thanks, Mark.
before
Oh,
you do
wait,
that,
here's
before
David.
hold the hold the thing, right? Because I think it's important for folks in the audience to know why we love working with nonprofit leaders, like why fundraising leadership exists at all. Like that, it would be good to start with why.
Go
Yeah,
ahead and start, David. Go ahead and do
Oh,
it.
all
yeah.
right. Yeah. So my why goes, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My why goes back to, so I started out my professional life in the corporate world. And while I was working for a company called Allied Signal, which is now Honeywell, I got really interested in this field called technology licensing. It's like where researchers, they invent ideas and like, how do you get these things out into the marketplace? And that I came to learn like there was this whole world of universities and national laboratories that did this work. Like there were scientists and engineers, and they weren't going to commercialize anything, they just needed help like getting it out. And then so I was like, I started doing that on Long Island for a national lab, and I started getting my master's in business, and then I took a course on organizational design, and it was like I learned about this whole thing called the nonprofit world. I was already in it. I didn't even know it. Like Brookhaven National Lab at the time was managed by a consortium of universities that were all nonprofits. It was a nonprofit unto itself, and I was like, "Wow, this is so cool! Like we're doing this really great work, all this great science and engineering, and I'm like part of this, and I get to help take this stuff out and get it out to the citizens of the United States and help technology with people in their lives." And I was like, after that, I was just hooked, like this is the stuff that nonprofits do. So ever since then, I've just been fascinated by the nonprofit world. And when Janice and I had an opportunity to actually like full on help nonprofit leaders, I was like a big yes. So anyway, that's my why.
I love that, David. And there's something about the, being very drawn to people who have are working with their values and what's important to them and what they want to bring in the world. And that's what drew me to nonprofits as well. I was a professional photographer for over 20 years, and I photographed a lot of people doing lots of different things in the world. And in the last part of my photography career, I did a lot of work in photographing the work that the Community Foundation of Boulder County was involved in here in Boulder, Colorado. And I loved that work. I loved capturing the stories and hearing the stories of why people were drawn to the work they were doing and the impact they were having in the community. And that's what drew me to this work. I thought I want to be around more people like that. And as a coach and a leadership developer, being able to grow those skills for other people to be able to have a bigger impact in the world is why I'm here. That's my why.
Yeah, and For me, it's interesting. As I was listening to you both, I was kind of chuckling to myself because when I left the nonprofit sector to become a coach, it wasn't clear to me that that's what I was going to do. And I think partly because I didn't want to like decide that I'm going to coach nonprofit leaders because that's who I know. Like I had to find my why, and it wasn't that clear. And I remember I was actually asked to speak at one of the Prospect Research conferences, like shortly after, when I was still like, who am I going to coach? What am I called to do? And I was waiting, sort of to be introduced and standing at the front of the room and looking out. And I thought, like, these are my people. I love that. They're like, there's literally the thought in my mind was like, there's nowhere I would rather be than here. And so that's solidified for me. And I think what's kept me at it is knowing that many nonprofit leaders they get promoted because they have these incredible skills of intuition and listening to people and working with donors, and I do think they need support in translating that into their leadership roles. And that is a lacking that David and I saw. Like, so many people are doing great fundraising training, and there's a lot of great fundraising consultants. And we very specifically wanted to bring coaching and leadership training to people because that was the missing and the magic that we knew could really not only transform organizations, but actually make people happy in their job.
Yeah, I love what everybody is saying, and I think there's a thread here of this sort of aha, like, wait, what? This exists? This nonprofit world, this intersection of where people can feel like they're purposeful and also professional. It's like where you can combine what you are interested in and what you get paid to do. And my entry into the nonprofit world was my phone rang. I was at home doing some writing. I had needed to. I had babies, and I had been a journalist before that, and was trying to figure out what to do because the whole world of journalism was really tricky with small children and the hours and everything. And my phone rang, and it was the person who I ended up working for the next 22 years. But she called me and she said, "I hear you do some contract writing. Would you be interested in doing a grant proposal?" And I thought, sure. I'd never done one before, but I did, and then we got the grant, and then I began to work at the Community Foundation Boulder County, which is how Michelle and I originally met in Boulder, Colorado. And I just heard about this idea of like, wait, a nonprofit that raises money and does cool things in my hometown. Wow, I'm in. It was an immediate yes, please for me. So that was how I got started. And as I've become a coach, um, it's been in part, Janice, what you like, why is it that nonprofits are so under-resourced? Like why are they constantly having to apologize to, spend a fraction of the money that a business wouldn't think twice about spending on, professional development, on salaries, on, we're just constantly an apology, and it makes me crazy. And so I wanted to help at least in fundraising for people to get a different perspective, like you don't have to apologize.
Yeah. And I want to add that to everything that's being said here, certainly when Janice and I were in our own leadership development program, we thought about, wow, this is so missing in the nonprofit world. Like, actually, what is the being of a leader? And we're going to talk about some of, in coaching, we talk about being and doing, like who you are and what you're up to. And so we're going to talk a little, we've given it a why, and we're going to talk a little bit about the how, and like how we actually do that, how we actually help nonprofit leaders flourish and thrive. Yeah. So let's like get into it, Michelle.
We're going to dive in. So we're, one of the things that we offer is executive coaching. And, you allude here, David, to the corporate world. I mean, most top CEOs have coaches. Like it is so well known and well supported in the corporate world. And this is not as well supported and known about in the nonprofit world. And really, the point of having an executive coach is to go from good to great. It's not that you're doing
Oh, by the
something.
way, a business classic. Can we coin that for the nonprofit world? Actually, I think there's a good to great for the nonprofit world. Yeah. Anyway, that's great,
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah, it's not that you're doing something wrong, but that it's like, getting better at what you're already doing and being more conscious of the behaviors that you have and the impact that you want to have, and trying out new things with the partnership of having a coach to push you perhaps beyond your comfort level right now, or beyond what you've been trying so far, to come up with some new ideas of things to try. So a lot of the reasons that people reach out to us for executive coaching is they might be growing into a new role within the nonprofit. They might be noticing that their team is growing a lot, or it might be shrinking, or people might even be quitting, right? And what's going on? Like, I don't even know what's happening. Having some of those unknowns. There's some challenging fundraising initiatives happening. There's communication breakdowns, conflict might be happening, miscommunications with the board. These are all different reasons that we have had nonprofit leaders come to us for coaching.
You're in a new role at a new organization and you don't
Yeah.
know what's up, what's down, what's all around.
Yeah. One of the things that we see so often in the nonprofit world, which I think is seems like in corporate America, the people who end up being managers, sometimes they've gone to school to do this, right? Like they have a whole education around managing people, around how organizations work, however helpful that is or isn't. But what we know about the nonprofit world is, somebody's a really good fundraiser. Great. Now you're supervising people, congratulations, here's your team. And there's so little built into training people how to be leaders, right? How to manage, how to supervise, how to create the culture that they want on their teams. And that's a place where coaching can be so extraordinarily helpful.
And what can often happen in those situations, Margaret, is that people are reacting. They're in reaction mode. It's like they're constantly, running to put out the next fire. And that leads to exhaustion. It leads to stress. It doesn't lead to working the most effectively or efficiently or with the best communication skills. And so that's what we really help people in, understanding their situation and then sort of taking it apart with them. It's like a partnership and conversation of, let's dissect this situation and let's look at it from a different way. And, what's another way you might try out this relationship or have this kind of conversation or this one-on-one with a direct report. Great, try that out. Then come back to the next coaching session. Let me know how that went. And then let's see what you learned from that. What were the successes? What were the failures? What's your ultimate goal here? So that's a little bit about the executive coaching. It's a very intimate one-on-one relationship with a coach where you really get one-on-one support with whatever it is you're working with.
Yeah. I want to add to that sort of the number one reason, whether you're in the corporate sector or the nonprofit sector or government, to work with a coach in a confidential one-on-one relationship is that the coach, one of us, is 100% in your corner.
Yeah.
Now, where in your professional life are you going to find somebody who is 100% in your corner? Like, the only job we have is to support you. Yeah, you're not going to find that anywhere else. No hidden agendas, guys. This is it.
Right. We're gonna help excavate what's spectacular about you as a leader.
Yeah. And also, it's an environment, safe, confidential environment where you can bring anything. Margaret and I talk a lot about the emotional field that each of us goes through in our lives. So one of the blessings of working with a certified coach the way we are certified is that we are trained to help support you through emotional ups and downs, which inevitably occur. As a leader, you're a human being. You're going to have emotional ups and downs. Who are you going to go talk to about this? Who's got the training? Yeah.
A lot of the leaders that that I coach, and I think all of us coach, find it's a little lonely, right? Suddenly
Yeah.
they're not part of the team in the same way. They are not an equal or a peer, and they have this new role, and and they're so grateful, most of our clients, to have a person who's right there side by side with them in the form of a coach to help them navigate and to feel supported and to get resourced by. So
And something that's unique about our coaching is that we're all trained as coactive coaches. And part of what you all are talking about is that we always, when we're working with clients, we're always looking at that balance of what's going on with them and what's right for them in terms of what you are doing and producing in the world and reaching goals and hiring people and all these things that need to happen. But then also, what's your experience of your world as you are working? Is it joyful to be with your team? Is there some silliness in your meetings, or is there some or do you feel stuck? What is this emotional field that you're talking about, David, as you are working in your work world every day? And it's actually a balance between what our experience in the world is and then what we're actually accomplishing that creates a happy and joyful work life and life in general. So we're always looking at that sort of that teeter-totter between what the experience is and what's being accomplished for
right.
you.
And that's such a good segue, Michelle, because I think sometimes when people are getting coached, and then they want everybody in their organization or everybody on their team to start to develop some shared language and vision. And that leads to another piece of what we offer at Fundraising Leadership. So Janice, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit more? I'll tell other people. I already know. So
Well, I want to hear. Every time I hear
David wants to learn from you.
Yeah, every time I hear this, I learn something new about what we do.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good segue, Margaret. I had the same thought when we were putting together the blog. It's the I think teams come to us in different ways, but a common way is that we are coaching. One of us is coaching a leader, and they want to trickle that down. Other common ways that teams come to us is there's a big transition, which is often a leadership change, a merger, for example. So something that's really shaking up the organization. And then sometimes just fundamentally there's some kind of breakdown, right? There's evidence of, a lack of trust, which could be, there's gossip happening. People are avoiding having conversations that actually need to be had. There's some kind of undercurrent that the leader feels on the team. And then also sometimes, just a leader wants to do something. I think especially right now, like a lot of people have been working remote and there's a move to like a little bit of a hybrid. So sometimes it's also just like we just want to come together and be together and have like kind of deep conversations that Michelle, is talking about. Where it's more about like who we are, right? And like how do we actually want together? So I think that's one of the things I love is when we're working with teams. It's of course they have goals around, their organization and what it wants to do and their mission. And often we're working with, teams that are adjacent to fundraising. So there's fundraising goals. But what we're really doing is focusing on what are often called the soft skills, but really are being proven more and more to be the most important skills that teams have. So, one of our more popular programs, which we often use as a kickoff, is about growing together through trust, candor, and conflict. And so that is really a place where teams can build a foundation. And we start with that because if there is no trust, then really there's no success. There's going to be turnover on your team. You're not going to achieve your goals. And so that's, we can kind of dive in a little bit to what that looks like. But I would say that that's probably, like that's just the place where it's really juicy for teams when they first meet us. And
Yeah. And it could be, Janice, I love what you're saying. It could be as simple as we use a assessment called the DISC assessment. It's, I don't know, millions of people every year use this assessment. It's really a communications, how we communicate, how we behave, less so than our personalities, right? And it could be something as simple as you have different styles on the team and you're not aware of these different behavioral or communication styles. And that's just enough friction to inject mistrust into or misunderstanding. We could even say it that way. Misunderstandings happen. And people don't even know why. Like, why is David so direct with me? Like it feels like he's always asserting.
yeah,
Or
I like
why
that,
doesn't
David. It's,
yeah.
because what's coming up for me too is it's not, sometimes we know, but we don't appreciate it. I
Mhm.
think that's the thing. Often we have a sense that we're different, but how do you help a team actually um, appreciate the fact that there are different styles and what they bring? Because when people have different styles from us, it's very easy to make assumptions
And
about where
especially when a
people are
team
coming
is
from.
going through a lot of change and a lot of shifting, a particular behavioral style that may have worked in the past might not be working so well now. And so having a conscious awareness of the different behavioral styles that we all hold these various DISC behavioral styles in us, but different roles sort of reward certain behavioral styles over the others. And when our role changes or when our team is changing and there's sort of a different it's like each member of the team is like a part of a puzzle. And when the puzzle's getting shuffled around, we need to sort of refit ourselves into a puzzle that is working well again. And so during that transition and that change, it can often feel like, wait, what's going on? I've been working well with so and so forever, and now it's just, I feel like every time we have a conversation, we're having a disagreement or something isn't working out. Like, what's happening here? So it creates that consciousness in how we work with teams as to how each member of the team is an important part of the puzzle and how you can lean on one another and ask each other for help and have a greater understanding of what other people need too. So you can sort of accommodate them when it's needed as well.
I love what you're saying, Michelle. And one of the things that I've learned from DISC is it's this beautiful invitation to not make other people wrong, right? But like just to understand this is how their style is, which is actually a pretty fundamental transition point to understand, like, there are people who are not going to give you an answer on the spot, like just hard stop. They're just not. You might want that. You might get angry that doesn't happen, but you're not going to change them. So how do you work with what is? It's a much more peaceful approach to.
Yeah, actually, I love that as like
team.
an overall theme, Margaret. All of our work is not about making anyone wrong, but it's about finding the strengths that each of us already have and making those being more conscious of those and making those stronger.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what I think fundamentally is our superpower is that when we go in to facilitate, teams actually say things out loud that have been in an undercurrent and nobody has been willing to say. And until a team actually reveals what's going on to itself, nothing can change, and I think there's a way that all of us sure are training, but I would say even more so just because of fundamentally who we are. We just make people feel safe enough to actually have those challenging conversations. And we model that, ourselves because we live that as a team. And we've talked a lot about that on the podcast. And so, when we come in, things come out.
That's right. Elephants are racing. Yeah. Elephants are racing around the room. They're named, they're there, but then they can exit, right? Like once they've been named.
Well, one of the things I love about what we help teams do is, and this surprised me, how little accountability there is in teams. Like it's completely like in the blind spot of the team. They think they have accountability. And in fact, there is no accountability. And part of that is that this word accountability has gotten into the zeitgeist, the culture, as a way to shame and blame people. That's what accountability has become. Like, okay, I'm going to hold you accountable. CNN, Fox News, ABC, NBC, we're going to hold them accountable, right? And that means we're going to shame and blame them. Except that's not accountability at all. And one of the things that Janice and I did early on, like one of our first workshops we ever created, was how do you, as a leader or as a member of a team, create a culture of accountability without shame and blame? Like, did you do it? Did you not do it? If you did it, what happened? Did it fail? Okay, let's take a look. Let's see what happened. Did you do it? It's done. Great. What happened? It's just like very clean like that. So that's one of the things I know, and we've trained now scores and scores of leaders and teams on how to have this, and it has transformed teams. And that is included in that workshop that Janice was mentioning.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I love about our workshops is, and people can go on the website and read more about the specifics, but we have some popular ones, like we're talking about growing together. We also have a coaching skills, but ultimately what I love is when we get engaged with an organization is we talk to them and we have enough conversations until we know exactly what is needed for each team. And then we pull pieces together. Margaret and I are about to do that later today, for a team where, it's like we have a lot to draw on, but ultimately what is most important is like, what are the challenges and opportunities of this unique team and what can we do to support you? And I think that combined with, like I said, like this way that we all create a safe space for people to have difficult conversations that need to be had. And then also fun. Let's just end on saying, like, we
Yeah.
have a lot of fun with our
Oh,
clients.
yeah.
And,
Yeah, we
like
do.
to
Like a
play
lot of these
games and do
topics.
improv and
Yeah, a lot of these topics are so heavy, but we provide like a fun learning environment that can create these conversations in a way that is not torturous.
Right. No dread required.
Yeah. And
Right.
causes breakthroughs.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, yeah, no dread required. And that means no PowerPoint, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't use PowerPoint, period. So
I
no
think
dread.
I'm gonna read the quote that's in the blog from one of our participants who said, "This is the quote. It's about as much personal growth as you can pack into 6 hours." Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's that's the kind of feedback that we get. My favorite is always when we make people do something a bit uncomfortable, like playing an improv game, and they come up to us afterwards and they go, "I didn't want to do that. I was really dreading that, but then it was good. I see why we did it."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
We're there
Yeah.
to provoke you and make things change.
Yeah. So you mentioned personal growth, Janice, which is, again, I'm just looking for the segues today. So I'm gonna toss to David and ask David to talk about our PQ program, which is a pretty
PQ.
high emphasis on personal growth for
And which
teams and
I love
individuals.
because it's both personal, like
Right.
the
And
coaching
team.
one-on-one, and
Yeah.
teams. So
Yeah.
Right.
it is
Yeah.
the place where those can collide.
Right.
Yeah.
So mind your P's and Q's. PQ, what is it? What is it? It's positive intelligence. It's the foundation of this work was introduced by Shirzad Shamin in his best-selling book by that name, Positive Intelligence. I think perhaps 2012 it hit the New York Times bestseller list. And I read his book because I'm a personal and professional junkie also. So by the way, we all are. And so like, this is how we learn and grow. We read stuff, we look at it, we say, wow, there's something new there. And then we incorporate it into our work with other clients. But first we incorporate it into our lives. We actually incorporate it into how we are together as a collective, and then we train others in these methodologies. So the PQ work was starting with the book. It's what got me into coaching when I was leading a fundraising team at Princeton. It was like, pow, whoa, coaching. Yeah. I want to, be a better coach with my team. And it led me to CTI, Michelle, where Michelle is now on the faculty of the Coaches Training Institute, now called the Coactive Training Institute, as I understand, Michelle, right?
Yep, that's right.
And Shirzad's work stuck with me through my coach training. He eventually launched a PQ, he calls it a saboteur assessment, which I started using with all of my clients. It's the way we sabotage ourselves on our teams. It's the way we sabotage ourselves in our personal and professional lives. And he kind of identified these ways and really condensed it down into like just a small number of ways that and subtle ways we sabotage ourselves.
Yeah, the positive intelligence program gives us a language to actually talk about ways that we sabotage ourselves. And these are themes that we notice in all of our lives. And just to double click on something you just said a minute ago, David, because it's so important. All four of us have actually done all the work that we support our clients to do. So we don't actually say, oh, we've got this PQ program, we think you should do it. We've actually done this ourselves. We implement it as individuals and human beings in our lives. We implement it with our team and how we work with the four of us. Like this, we're doing it, and we're teaching it, and we're supporting our clients to learning it. So that's just something that's so important. We walk the walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'll invite Margaret in on this PQ conversation, because she and I have co-coached. And now, Michelle, you and Janice are also co-leading team pods, small groups of leaders. We just had a university client with a large university with a leadership team in one of their colleges go through this program. We split them into 2 pods of 4, and we each, 2 of us took those pods and led them through. So this can be a one-on-one coaching program. It can be a group coaching format. And not only do we help you identify the ways you sabotage yourself and your teammates, but we actually help you shift into what Shirzad calls sage powers. And maybe you could say a little bit about sage powers, Margaret.
Yeah,
This is really where the gold is.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think, kind of what's cool about Shirzad's work is that he's got a lot of the science, the neuroscience and the brain science about, when we are triggered, when we are hijacked by our saboteurs, we are not in a productive part of our brain. And so the program teaches us tools to shift which part of your brain lights up, and your sage powers, live where creativity and problem solving and activation and curiosity live, all in those frontal, higher thinking parts of your brain, and also where you can touch into intuition. It's just a productive part of your brain as opposed to trauma frozen part of your brain. And so those sage powers are what we need to move forwards, and I named some of them, but they have to do with how can I activate something that needs to happen? How can I get into a creative innovation mode when there's a problem and I don't have a solution right away? How can I get curious and get a beginner's mind to look at a situation differently? And so those are the sage powers that we help people learn to access when they want to.
Yeah. And I love, my favorite thing probably from Shirzad's work is looking for gifts when we're struggling, and feeling like we're overwhelmed or so stressed that we don't know what to do, or facing something we're judging, to be quote unquote bad. That we challenge to look at the gifts, right? And I mean, we did that program at the beginning of COVID, and our business was like boom, like kind of blew up. For a while there, as a lot of our clients just, were putting everything on hold and trying to figure out how to continue their work, let alone, like personal development was a little bit lower on the field. And, for us, like we took that to heart. And I remember us saying, like, okay, well, we have time to, you know, redo our website, for example. Like there's some space in our calendar. We could work on our website. It's where we sort of, I think, really started to think about our work more holistically, right? Which we'll get into our arc in a minute. But we took that to heart and said, okay, what's the gift for us in this change in our business, and what can we do with it?
And
Yeah,
this work
very
around emotional
powerful.
intelligence is really the key to success for all people, because we all have an IQ, an intelligent level, right? But unless we're able to manage our emotions and what's happening and get out of that reaction from our emotions quicker in order to manage them or move forward with more rational thinking, more conscious thinking about what we want, that's really the key to success for all of us. And so that's why this PQ work is so important, and understanding those things that sabotage us, those themes inside each of us that sabotage ourselves, so we can get on top of that stuff and really be able to manage it rather than the emotions managing us.
And it's too, I mean, it doesn't sound like it, but one of the things it does is it provides like a kind of just a more playful way of calling each other out, and we do that for
Yes,
each other on the team, right? Actually,
absolutely.
Shirzad did that to me because I have a strong controller saboteur, and he was speaking at a conference that I was co-chairing, and I thought he was done, and it was time for him to be done, and I jumped up on stage, and he totally playfully and lovingly was like, "Oh, the controller saboteur."
I remember that. I was in the audience. That was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about personal growth and leadership, and our name is Fundraising Leadership. And we also help people with fundraising. And so, first, lots of these programs and coaching things that we do are for fundraising teams and fundraising executives. But we also do some coaching work specifically in the area of fundraising. And I wrote in the blog, because it's the easiest way to talk about this, the ideal client, or the most common situation, that I see is that we see is, it might be an executive director who is new to a role, new to being an executive director, new to an organization. And somehow in the interview, when asked if they knew how to raise money, they were like, yeah, totally. That's not a problem for me. And then when it actually comes down to it, they find that, wow, so much passion for the organization, so much expertise in what they do. And when it comes to picking up the phone and asking for money, many of them would rather have a root canal, like to climb under their desks. Like it's just such a space of intense discomfort for them. And this intersection between fundraising and coaching is so potent. It's just great. Why do you feel that way? Like what are the stories that you're carrying around that are contributing to, like this horrible reaction to asking for things? What do you believe about money? What do you believe about asking for help? And there's a lot that the coaching can really change, and people can fundamentally move them out of dread and towards a much more powerful, compelling space. And then we do this work as a team with their teams. We help with storytelling for boards. We help with money stories for boards and teams, and so skills very much related to fundraising and coaching, and how to be with fundraising instead of just
Yes.
the how to do part.
There's plenty of stuff out there, if you're listening to this, and you probably know it, on the how to do fundraising. Except if you don't get to the root of what Margaret's talking about, who are you as a fundraiser? You could learn all the doings, all the first I do this, then I do that, then I do this. You could study that forever and not become a successful fundraiser. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So we've all sort of talked about some of the different things that we do, and we're really finding that fitting these pieces together, whichever entry point any organization starts with, that that it really makes sense to consider putting together an arc of learning for leadership. And so that's been something we've been talking about a lot this year and last year. And why? Why do you think? Somebody help me out here.
Well, yeah. So the arc of learning, and there's an arc. We call it an arc of learning because we feel that we're taking you on a journey of learning over a period of time. And part of the purpose of that is really to create a different mindset, to create a different set of behaviors in you and or your team and or your organization, depending on how big we're working within your team, so that you all are working better and with more joy together. And so each of these programs that we've been talking about in this podcast so far are sort of one of those workshops or coaching engagements that create an arc of learning. We also have a large 9 to 12 month arc of learning that takes your whole team through a series of experiences, growing trust, creating a coaching culture, creating positive mindsets as you work together, and different ways of workshopping these ideas and creating conversations and interactive activities between all of you as a team, so you can really try out these new behaviors and new things, new skills that you're learning over an arc of time, to actually be able to implement it. And the gift in the arc of time is that you're going to have failures along the way. You're going to have successes along the way. You're going to have unexpected events and changes happen along the way. And having the support of the fundraising leadership team as you're in this learning arc, and as you can learn from the things that are happening in your world in real time as you're practicing these skills, can be really beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, I love what you're saying here. I think this is the most thing in addition to coaching in general, which we're all super excited about as a leadership development modality, this 9 to 12 month arc that we've created for nonprofit teams is we are super excited about. And one of the reasons is, and Shirzad makes this case in his book, Positive Intelligence, and the science is in, a 1 hour webinar has as much lasting effect on you as a snowflake in the desert. It just disappears. So by all means, take little snowflake nuggets or snowflakes anywhere you can and put them on your tongue and swallow them and ingest them, and maybe they'll stick and maybe they won't. But this type of learning sticks, but it takes a commitment.
Yeah. And we talk about helping organizations build dream teams. And, I think, and I'd love for all of you to add on, but, at the end of an engagement, what characterizes a dream team? I think they are in integrity. I think everybody is growing and has more awareness, of their style and the impact that they have. There's the opportunity to have conversations that need to be had. There's no step over on the team. What are some of the other things to my dream team?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I think about, and I worked as part of a dream team when I was in fundraising, and I work as part of a dream team now, and it's really, to me, one hallmark is people actually look forward to being together. You wake up in the morning and you think, like, I'm excited to go to work because we're doing something really meaningful and challenging, but I know that we're in it together.
Yeah, there's yes, and Janice, we are in a dream team now. There's like, we bring out the best in each other. We look forward to our meetings and our time together and creating things. And we also push each other to be the best that we can be, and beyond what we actually as an individual are, think, the limits we set around ourselves as an individual. And, David, you and I worked with a team a year or two ago, and they sent us the most delightful pictures from their next meeting, their board meeting that they were having. And there was such joy in them. And they had all these they had workshopped all these flip charts around the table, and they were so proud of what they'd created as a result of one of the programs that you and I did with them. And it was a real 180 turn in terms of how they were working together. And so for me, what's so fulfilling about that, and what we see in so many of the clients that we work with, is there's just more joy. So yes to more joy in working together in the world.
Yeah. So if you want more joy, more fulfillment, you can actually have it. You can intend it. And you might need a little help along the way. And if you do, we're here for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we like to end our podcasts with something to try, or a resource. And, I'm going to say, I think the thing to try, call one of us, email, let us talk to you. Let us offer you the gift of some of our time to explore with you what your challenges are at your organization and whether some of our work might be a good fit. So
Yeah.
we will put a link to our contact page, and each of us is available.
And what you're not going to get in that call is some sort of hard sales pitch. What you are going to get is a deep, meaningful conversation with one of us to explore what might be the right thing for you and what's happening with you right now.
Yeah. And our commitment, if we're not the right team for you, we will tell you. We
Mhm.
do not want mismatches, right? We're not gonna hardcore sell. We're exploring too when we talk to people. Yeah, awesome.
Well,
Thanks,
Margaret, thank you
team.
for this idea and for inviting us all into this conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my pleasure. Thanks, everybody. This podcast is brought to you by Fundraising Leadership. We provide unique coaching and training programs that powerfully transform how you work in order to get results. Please subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. You can find us wherever you listen. And if you're enjoying the show, you can help us continue to bring thoughtful content with a monthly or an annual contribution. This supports our production costs and keeps the show ad-free. Please make a contribution today using the link in the show notes. And please reach out to talk to one of us.